So now I want to give you just a little bit more detail on the academic integrity process and the sanctioning process. I'm not going to go into great detail on the process because if you look at the website that we have listed at the end, which directs you to the actual policy and procedure for academic integrity, it is very, very long and very involved. But I want to give you a little bit of an overview. Especially because you are online students and you're not here on campus. And so if you do have to go through this process, it is even more confusing, I think. And then I want to talk a little bit about sanctions because I want you to understand really why we do take this so seriously. So basically, if you're ever accused of an academic integrity violation, the first thing I would encourage you to do is contact your advisor. So that'll either be Jan and Nala for the MBAs, myself for our other majors, and Ashley Wilson, our newest advisor, is also going to be working with MBAs. So you'll know which one of us is your advisor. Drop us an email, call and schedule a phone appointment with us. We are not here to judge you. We're here to help you through the process. The sooner you can bring us into that process, let us know what's going on, the more help we can be to you through that process. Again, be respectful of everybody. All official communications for the whole university, and including in this process, will come to your OK State email. So make sure you're keeping an eye on that OK State email and responding promptly to any inquiries. I want to tell you this is not a quick process. I think this is the thing that shocks students more than anything else. This academic integrity process can take upwards of 5 to 6 months. Part of the reason for that is a lot of times these violations are discovered at the end of a semester when we're wrapping up the semester either with final exams or final projects. And so this policy looks at school days, not business days. And so when we're looking at being up against a Christmas break, a summer break, those sorts of things, this process can be very long and drawn out. The reason it is like that is to give students appropriate opportunities to appeal, and also because if a panel has to be convened, it's a lot of schedules to try to match up. So all violations are going to be a part of your permanent educational record. That doesn't mean that all of them are transcripted. So some violations, like the F-shriek, which we'll talk about a little bit in a minute, are transcripted, but a level 1 violation is not. And the standard in this process, because it is not a judicial proceeding, it is not a legal proceeding, the standard is that it is more likely than not that the violation was committed. So basically the way the process works, an instructor discovers an alleged violation. And so within 5 days of discovering that, they have to do what we call the inquiry form. And basically that just provides a brief description of the situation and gets it on the record, basically. Once that inquiry form is done, once that violation has been alleged, you are not allowed to drop that class. If you do somehow manage to drop the class, because that happens, you will be put back in the class until this is resolved. So keep in mind there is not that easy out of just dropping the class if this happens to you. So then there's going to be a resolution hearing which has the instructor, a facilitator, and the student. And so that instructor is going to recommend a sanction. The facilitator is a trained, usually faculty member, occasionally staff member or administrator, like a department head, who's usually also a faculty. And they have been trained in the academic integrity procedure. They are not there to take your side. They're not there to take the faculty member's side. They are there to ensure that the university process is followed. So they're kind of the safety net there. You have the right to appeal within 5 days if you don't agree with the sanction. So then, if we need an appeal hearing, we can certainly help you locate those forms. If there is an appeal hearing, that usually takes some time to get scheduled because that's going to include specially trained students. That's going to include university representatives and faculty members. And so there's at least 5 panel members usually. So be sure that you're prepared for that. If you do have to do that hearing, there are options for online students to attend that remotely. So what are some of the sanctions? So what could happen to you if you have a violation of academic integrity? Really, there are several different levels. It could be an F or a 0 on the assignment, to an F shriek in the course, to dismissal from the program and the university. There is also an admonition, which is kind of the lowest sanction. And so you will see in that policy, it kind of lays out what some of the suggested sanctions are, but that is really up to the instructor, and again, is appealable on your part. Keep in mind that a first offense is not automatically treated as an admonition. It is based on the offense itself, not how many offenses there have been. So, that being said, different sanctions could result for a similar violation. That's usually because of severity, and that is where they do take previous violations into account. And so, for example, something that might have been an admonition or a level 1 for somebody, if you get through this process and they find out you have had a previous violation, and they will find out, trust me, then they can do a harsher sanction. And so, keep in mind that for one of the best examples I can think of is the helping somebody else cheat. That is a place where different sanctions might result. It's the same kind of 2 students, the same pair of students who did essentially the same thing, but depending on the situation, the sanction may be more or less harsh for one of the parties, depending on that situation. One thing I will say is they do use the same detailed process for all violations. And so while it may seem like the process is very long, very involved, very detailed, they do that to ensure fairness to students. And while we all can get a little bit frustrated with how long that process takes, I think in the end, it is a fair process designed to really level that playing field in terms of academic integrity. So we just all kind of have to have patience with that. So what could happen here in the Watson Graduate School of Management in terms of your program? For students who have an assistantship, it could include loss of that assistantship and could require repayment of waiver. I know most of our online students don't have assistantships, so that may not be as big of a deal for you. It's a very big deal for our on-campus students. The other thing that can happen is program dismissal. You can be dismissed from your program here at the Watson Graduate School of Management based on an academic integrity violation. And so, in addition to the sanctions that you could receive from the university, you may also be dismissed from your program. So it is a very serious thing, and that's why we devote this time to it. If you're interested in more information, like I said, the entire policy and procedures is out on the academicintegrity.okstate.edu website. They have a lot of good resources out there. I highly encourage you to take a look at that. As I mentioned earlier, before we submit your plans of study and those sorts of things, we do have to ensure that you have had some education on academic integrity and responsible conduct of research. And so this series of videos does that for us. There's also going to be a form you'll find in your online orientation, in your online classroom, that will ask you to just fill out and sign and send back to us so that we have on file that you have actually completed this training. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch these videos and learn a little bit more about academic integrity and responsible conduct of research here at OSU.